Today, we're diving into the hidden financial realities of building a career in student affairs. We're going to unpack a super revealing research study by Calhoun, Tolman, and Long. It takes a hard look at exactly how professional development is funded, or let's be real, heavily underfunded for residence life professionals across the U.S.
Okay, to set the stakes right out of the gate, consider this number, $1,500 to $2,500. The research shows this is the typical out-of-pocket cost for a professional to attend just one single national conference. Think about that for a second. We're talking travel, hotels, registration fees. It all combines into this massive financial hurdle. And this is especially true for early and mid-level professionals who, let's face it, are often already notoriously underpaid compared to their peers with similar degrees.
Naturally, these steep costs create an immense financial strain. When you place that heavy burden on the shoulders of residence life staff, folks who are already working grueling hours under really high stress, it directly fuels burnout. The research highlights how this sheer lack of institutional support is actually pushing a ton of highly capable people to either reconsider their career paths or just leave the field entirely.
Here's our roadmap for the explainer. We'll start with the price of growth, look at how the study worked, break down the actual data, check out the impact on retention, and finally, explore some future solutions. All right, Section 1, the price of growth.
The researchers anchored their entire study in human capital theory, which was developed by Gary Becker back in 1964. Basically, this theory says that individuals invest in their own education and skills, fully expecting future returns, right? Like a higher salary or career advancement. But if institutions don't financially invest in their staff's growth to match that effort, well, those returns are pretty limited. The natural consequence? Those professionals are going to seek opportunities elsewhere. It's simple. If an institution isn't investing in you, your motivation to stick around definitely takes a hit.
Moving on to Section 2, how the study worked.
So, how did they get these numbers? The researchers used some really specific parameters to get a comprehensive look at who gets funding and who doesn't. They analyzed data from an incredible 656 post-secondary institutions across the U.S. To pull this off, they gathered self-reported compensation and benefits data from the widely used 2023 Horowitz Live-In/On report, which tracks residence hall directors. Then they cross-referenced all of that with the 2021 Carnegie institutional classifications to factor in institutional size, type, and resources. Since residence life is a massive career pathway for new professionals, this dataset gives us a crystal clear window into the systemic realities of the field.
Let's get into the numbers in Section 3, breaking down the data.
$900. The study revealed that this is the national average in professional development funding for residence life professionals. Let's connect the dots back to our first number, right? If a single conference costs between $1,500 and $2,500, an average funding pool of just $900 doesn't even come close to covering the bill. This literally forces professionals to either self-fund the difference, rack up credit card debt while waiting on reimbursements, or, just stay home. When we break that average down further, a really stark disparity emerges based on the type of institution. The data shows that public institutions offer an average of $1,047, whereas private, not-for-profit institutions average just $759. And the researchers ran statistical tests confirming this is a highly significant difference. So right off the bat, we see that where you work fundamentally alters your access to career growth. And this creates what the researchers actually call a regional lottery. Looking at funding across the different ACU-HOI regions, which is the primary professional association for campus housing, the disparities are wild. Professionals in the SWACHO region covering the Southwest average over $1,100 in funding. Meanwhile, professionals in the NEAC-HO region up in the Northeast average just $681. Your ability to grow professionally really shouldn't be dictated by your zip code, but the data proves that geographic location heavily dictates how supported you are. Stepping back to look at broader institutional trends, the data confirms a classic resource-rich get richer dynamic. The researchers found statistically significant positive correlations between professional development funding and three main things: a higher salary, higher institutional enrollment, and a greater number of residence hall beds. Put simply, larger, wealthier institutions give their staff way more money to develop. Under-resourced institutions give less, which risks unintentionally widening the gap between those who actually have the opportunity to advance and those facing insurmountable barriers. Now let's look at Section 4, the impact on retention. So, why do these numbers matter so deeply? It's really because of gaps in early training. The researchers cite a poignant quote from Halsweiss and colleagues, noting that new professionals are often not being trained as administrators, only educators. You see, grad programs frequently skip crucial administrative training, things like budgeting, financial management, or report writing. Because of that, new staff are virtually forced to seek out external professional development just to meet the basic expectations of their day-to-day jobs. When their institution doesn't fund that development, the professional is essentially set up to fail. This ultimately snowballs into a massive equity issue. The researchers cite earlier work arguing that when development requires significant personal financial investment, conference attendance risks becoming a marker of privilege. It completely ceases to be an inclusive tool for growth. Think about it. If only those who have personal wealth or work at highly endowed institutions can actually afford to go to conferences, get certifications, and network, then the professional development system is actively widening the equity gap in higher ed administration. Let's talk fixes in Section 5, Solutions for the Future. The good news? The researchers provided clear, actionable recommendations across 3 different levels of higher education to fix this systemic issue. First up, institutions themselves need to take the lead. The researchers recommend creating structured, multi-year funding plans. So, for example, instead of giving a staff member a tiny, unusable amount every year, maybe give them a larger chunk every other year so they can actually afford a national conference. On top of that, institutions should leverage local expertise by hosting in-house learning days or creating internal travel grants. Staff shouldn't always have to fly across the entire country and foot the bill for an expensive hotel just to learn how to do their jobs better. Zooming out to the profession as a whole, professional associations absolutely have to adapt to these financial realities. The study highly recommends implementing sliding scale registration fees. This means senior professionals with larger budgets pay a bit more, while entry-level staff pay less. Plus, national organizations need to strategically alternate their flagship conference locations, making them geographically accessible to different regions year by year. And the regions themselves, they should be pooling resources to host collaborative, low-cost webinars and retreats. Finally, the researchers target graduate preparation programs. Faculty really must intentionally prepare their students to navigate these financial barriers before they ever enter the workforce. This means actively teaching students how institutional budgets actually work, how to advocate for funding, and embedding professional identity development right into the curriculum so they have the resilience to advocate for their own growth. Faculty can also model this by fostering cross-campus partnerships to offer free seminars for local staff. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this critical, provocative question based on the researchers' conclusions. If the field of student affairs truly believe that continuous professional development is a core value and an absolute requirement, well, who is systematically being left out when it costs thousands of dollars to participate? The data clearly shows that right now, growth is a privilege, not a standard. It's really up to institutions, associations, and faculty to reconstruct these systems so that career growth becomes truly equitable for everyone. Thanks so much for diving into this learning session with me today.